less than nothing, just look at us now. In the arms of peace, we long to sleep. We'll rest tonight. When you lay beside me, I know everything's gonna be alright tonight. Could have been stranded, but we made it out of that town, baby, just in time. All these years we thought we had it down, but it was just a foolish stray. It's okay, and it's alright. This graceful life.
Hello, this is Richard Windmann, and the show is called The Interviews with Richard Windmann. I am Richard Windmann. This is episode number 16 on the SCSA podcast network. Today's guest knows a lot about what he's talking about. Todd Garlington is currently the lead therapist at a large co-occurring substance use treatment facility in Texas. He has amassed over 13 years in primarily clinical settings treating individuals who deal with mental health and substance use disorders. He has been on the front line of addiction treatment for many years and is a person in long-term recovery himself. He is a licensed chemical dependency counselor, has a bachelor's degree from University of North Texas in rehabilitation studies, and at the ripe old age of 57 is currently attending Tarleton State University, working towards his master's in clinical mental health counseling. And he's also a survivor of childhood sexual abuse and a suicide survivor who found his own healing and helping others find freedom from addiction through providing trauma-informed care. Welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Richard.
So, well, what I want to talk about is it's been my experience, especially doing advocacy work, is that victims and survivors, they live a life of misplaced guilt and shame. And because it's a secret, they can't tell anybody. And then they self-medicate to make the pain go away, typically with drugs and alcohol. And at the end, if that doesn't work and it will stop working, suicide. So you're uniquely qualified to talk about this, I think. So my question is, why do victims and survivors turn to drugs en masse?
Well, I mean, it's been, like you said, I've been doing this a while, and it's been kind of my experience that it's the kind of the overwhelming psychic pain of holding on to those secrets. And that trauma, it's devastating, and it gets heavier the longer it goes. And then you throw in an addiction to self-medicate or numb that pain. And then you're dealing with, twofold problem, because now you've got an addiction on top of, the trauma and, or even mental health concerns. And it only gets worse with time as long as it's left untreated.
I understand. With time, can you explain the suffering that addicts go through?
Absolutely. Once we change our brain, and I firmly believe a lot of it is a brain disease, and once we change the chemical makeup in our brain, it kind of leads us down a path where every time we drink or drug, it reinforces that numbness and not wanting to feel. And then we become physically addicted at some point, where the body actually needs that just to feel normal. And it just, you develop dependence, you develop withdrawal when you try to stop, and can be deadly, can be very dangerous. And many do pass away from that disease.
Yeah, we lost somebody last year. One of our members at SCSA. So her name was Fawn. She was public, and yeah, miss her terribly. And I see suicide all around me. When my story went public that day, there was a girl. She committed suicide. Her brother was molested by the same man as I was, and she walked in, caught it, broke it up, but she didn't say anything, and she was living with that guilt all of her life. It's really, really sad. And she was a functioning, I don't know if you can call it that, but she was a functioning heroin addict. Held down a job and everything. And that day, her brother talked to me. That's how I know this story. She just said bye, and she went into her room, and he tried to bust it open, and she took a syringe full of heroin, enough to kill an elephant. And boom, that was it. And it's the saddest thing, because yeah, obviously victims and survivors untreated are not living their best lives at all. And just speaking solely for me, it's a very painful, awful existence. I think we'll talk about dry drunks, but it's sort of like that feeling, being a dry drunk all the time, having that trauma in your past and not doing anything about it. Myself, after my abuse happened, I tried to commit suicide at 19. That didn't work. They caught me. And my life just got a whole lot better. I got really tired of people telling me, I can't do this, I can't do that. Oh, you'll never be that. So I got real busy proving people wrong. And I thought that it would stay, on the back burner forever and that it would never affect me. But when I was 47 years old, and up to that point, I never drank alcohol, not a drop. Well, New Year's and Christmas wine. But I just exploded. It's like a cancer that lives inside of you, and it just keeps on growing. And you have to deal with it at some point. You have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, and Richard, you mentioned that. I see it so often, how many of these individuals, their brain has been able to compartmentalize what happened to them at a young age. But when they get into their, 40s, 50s, even 60s, it's almost as if it begins to leak from the subconscious. And really, I see what I see a lot. I see kind of the end result of that couple with their addiction really speeding up, and them really losing manageability. And that's why so many, I believe, do end up in treatment. Many don't. A lot more people should have that opportunity, but a lot of them end up, on our doorstep. I've got, I'd say last month, out of the 30 people I treated, probably 20 of them had childhood sexual trauma. It's that prevalent. That's not out of the norm. It's rampant, in my opinion. Either that, or I'm just seeing the bulk of it.
I know you can't speak about them specifically because of HIPAA regulations, but can you tell me sort of like demographics about them? For example, how many were abused in an institution like the church versus family?
Probably 20% in church or organizations, some type of organizations. Probably the rest were either family or even family friends, I have one individual that, without going into a whole lot of detail, she'd been involved in a, quote, Christian cult.
Mm-hmm.
And it was pretty severe. really, really severe with her because she also had a lot of self-harm going on and, struggle.
That's sad. So, can you tell us why it's so important to find a counselor that is trauma informed when dealing with this?
Absolutely. The way I approach it, especially in addiction, pretty much everybody that comes in that door has experienced some kind of trauma. There's always an underlying issue. The alcohol and the drugs is what we use to self-medicate the issue. Whether it's sexual trauma, neglect, there's many different forms of trauma, early childhood trauma that we can go through. And if someone is not sensitive to that, if a therapist is not sensitive to that, they're really going to struggle building that rapport and making that connection with that client. And it's all about breaking down those walls and giving them a safe space to let that go. If you're not aware, the trauma is a huge part of especially addiction. And in my field, you're really going to struggle helping these individuals.
Yes, I understand. So I was talking to Dr. Ellison over at Wesleyan University. I interviewed him about a month ago, I think. And he told me that CBT and DBT therapies now have a trauma component to them.
Sure
a little bit about that. Can you explain how that works?
I don't know a lot about that. I sure don't. What I'm seeing more and more of, Richard, is the EMDR and a relatively new one called ART. That's being used with a lot of success. But the CBT, the trauma-informed CBT, I've not been trained in that, so I wouldn't be able to speak on that yet. I did listen to that interview with you and him. It was very informative. I really enjoyed that.
I'm glad. I think it was one of our better shows, actually.
Absolutely.
So, let's take a quick break. We'll hear from Paul, the Angry Catholic. He's a sponsor on the show now. So give us 1 minute. We'll be right back.
There is the Cradle Catholic, the Cultural Catholic, the Cafeteria Catholic, and now there is the Angry Catholic. The current state of the church should make every Catholic righteously angry. Paul Chiacha is the Angry Catholic.
It ticks me off that I can no longer trust the bishops to protect their flock. And most Catholics have no idea about what's going on in the church.
Along with his wife, Chris, they discuss the challenges facing the church.
Let's be honest, the best thing to happen to women was the Catholic Church.
Each week, Paul and Chris speak with informed, compelling, and thought-provoking guests who share their insights about the crisis in the Catholic Church. So listen to The Angry Catholic Show, Saturdays at 11 a.m. and Sundays at 10 p.m.
That's Paul, and he's angry. So going back to what you said about EMDR, other therapies like ego state therapy, that's what I do. I do a combination of ego state therapy and EMDR, and it's been very, very, very helpful. I mean, like night and day. It's worked out really well. I have a wonderful trauma-informed counselor. Her name's Annette. Hey, Annette. What else? Do you have to take a holistic approach to healing from this trauma, or is psychotherapy just all you need to do?
No, I mean, it's, in relation to if you've got somebody dealing with an addiction, especially, it's got to be a holistic. You got to be able to treat both at the same time. You got to be able to treat the mind, body, and the spirit or the soul. It's imperative. I mean, in my mind, when somebody comes in and they're dealing with a trauma, they're basically, when all that happened, and especially sexual trauma as a child, basically they've been fractured into a million different pieces. And it's our job as therapists to help that individual begin to, put those pieces back together, mind, body, and spirit. That means taking care of your body. If you need medication, taking your medication. If you need to be a part of a support group, psychotherapy, EMDR, it's got to be, you got to treat the whole person. It's absolutely imperative you treat the whole person.
Mm. And in your experience, these 20 people, are they willing to talk about their abuse at all, or some are, more tight-lipped, or are they ready? Or
I mean, they were kind of all at different stages. As I get to spend more time with them, they begin to open up. I think having been there somewhat myself really kind of helps break down some of those barriers. So, I'm always willing to share some of my personal story with them, not for my gain, but to give them hope, that you can make it out of this. It is possible. But it takes some work because they don't trust easily.
no, they don't.
They don't trust easily. They've been hurt. They've been harmed, not only physically, but psychologically. So you have to build that trust, and they have to know that you're genuine, that you really care. They can spot a therapist that's, just there, that's, just reading out of a book or what they learned in school, and don't really necessarily may not have any life experience. They can spot them a mile away, and it's going to be hard for them to open up to that therapist.
Yeah, I call it telling the next shrink the same damn thing. It seems like it takes a while to find the one.
Right.
I went through many, many therapists before I found Annette, and life-changing experience. It was worth the wait.
Right.
Yeah, it was. So going back, you had said, and this is where my brain fart comes in. You were talking about a holistic approach. What we recommend, tell me if we're doing it right, is like you said, I think it was verbatim, docs taking your medication. But we talked also about the mind, body, and soul. Now, my experience is, especially with the church survivors, is that they don't want to address the God thing.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience, nothing works. Nothing works unless your soul's intact.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you go about healing a soul?
Well, I don't know that we can actually heal them. Ultimately, God's the one that heals the soul, but we can hold space. I've dealt with, especially people that have been harmed by, Catholic priests or the Christian church. I'm a Christian, so oftentimes I sit down and have a genuine conversation with them. Okay, this is real Christianity. What you experienced was somebody twisting to get their sick needs met. So we'll sit and we'll have that conversation, and sometimes that'll be all, and sometimes we'll have to have it several more times. And a lot of it is me being an example and living out my faith in front of them and letting them know that I don't want anything from them. I just want to be there for them.
Why do, and this is universal, all victims and survivors They have that misplaced shame and guilt. Do you know, have you ever thought about why we're so quick to blame ourselves for what happened to us?
I mean, I can speak for me. In my particular situation, I was young. I was embarrassed. I didn't necessarily know what was happening. I felt ashamed, and I didn't want to tell anybody. And then oftentimes, you know as well as I do, the perpetrators will, um, you know, just kind of feed into that and, don't tell anybody or threaten you. I mean, I know I've had clients that, their perpetrator told them they were going to kill them if they said anything, and that does a brutal thing to the psyche, especially of a child.
Yeah. I mean, our brains aren't fully developed yet. I mean,
Yeah.
well, what did they say? The age is 25 years old. That's when your frontal cortices are finally developed.
Exactly.
So what does that do to a child that can't consent to sex, doesn't even know what sex is? How disturbing? Well, we know how disturbing the act is, but what kind of impact does that have on a child? And I'm assuming it lasts all lifelong.
Yeah, I mean that's what we see. Especially in addiction, we see lifelong. They struggle with connecting with others. Oftentimes, they'll struggle in a family setting. They'll struggle with, in their marriages or dating even. They struggle, even if they have a family, that gnawing, that shame and that guilt just will drive an addiction and the need to put on a mask, that everything's okay. While in the meantime they're self-medicating, just trying to keep that tamped down. The fear of that coming out, I think there's a lot what drives the shame and the guilt. What will people think of me? And we run into that, in addiction, just in substance use disorders as well, because the stigma involved, not everybody, I mean, I firmly believe in living your recovery out loud, but not everybody can do that. I do that for the ones that can't.
Yeah. Also, yeah, I wear my addiction on my sleeve. My struggles with alcohol.
Yeah.
Never thought in a million years that I'd be an alcoholic, and boom, here I am. But it's been good. You know what the thing about recovering is that you get to meet some really, really interesting people.
You do?
Yeah, when I was at Greenhouse, my mind was always ticking. I was always learning about somebody. The work that my therapist gave me was unorthodox, but it was challenging. You do something. It's maybe a little bit off topic, but you do something where you get somebody, and you get somebody to volunteer to be the spouse or the parent or whatever, and then the person who's traumatized gets to just talk to them, and sometimes it gets very emotional. What's that method called?
Yeah, this is what we call a chair to chair. I mean, it's probably a little bit Gestalt, but it's, we call it the chair to chair, and it goes back to, it has its roots in family system work, but it's very powerful. Giving someone the space to actually verbalize those emotions, even if they're just able to let out a little bit, is very freeing for that individual. And getting that opportunity to watch that and be a part of that process is just huge for me. But it's very healing. It's very healing.
Yeah, I did it once and I saw it 3 times, and it's even for the people observing, it gets very, very emotional. Yeah, you get a lot out of it.
Mm-hmm.
So, is there anything, I'm blessed that I have the support of my wife. And are there any, I mean, I came out and just said what happened to me, but are there any nonverbal or verbal uh, clues or cues that a person is struggling in? And is there any way for us to be proactive for them?
As far as struggling with addiction or with sexual trauma?
Both.
Both. I mean, it's been my experience. The first clue is they're pulling away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they pull back into themselves. If they're a young child, the school starts suffering, or they start overachieving. They go the other way.
That's what I did. Mm.
Yep. Yeah. They have trouble in relationships. Not that they can't be in relationships, but oftentimes they'll end the relationships to protect themselves from getting hurt. Um, with the addiction, they're changing their friends group. Money starts missing. Bank accounts drain quicker. Accidents, then you get into overdoses, things like that. There's telltale signals there. Self-harm, cutting, burning, risk-taking behavior that's really out of the norm. Those are all key indicators that, there's really something wrong going on.
In my case, after my abuse was over, I just turned 18 and I went through a promiscuous period.
Mm-hmm.
In my case, I was molested or raped, we'll just call it what it is, by men. And so I had to prove to myself that I wasn't gay. And through the abuse, I had a girlfriend, so I knew who I was attracted to. I don't even know why I went through the stupid exercise. But do you see that in folks too? When you said risky behaviors, that's what brought it up. Do you see others doing promiscuous type activity?
Absolutely, both females and males, sure do. Females telling me how they, they would, pretty much lose control and be, one partner after another. And even after they got married, they were stepping outside the marriage because a lot of them, that had become their perception of love. Mm-hmm. And that's how they would seek that out. Even if it was in strange men, that act of sex was how they perceived love. And it almost became an addiction for some of them as well. But yeah, I see it in males too, just like you said, going way the other way to prove they're not gay or prove their manhood, so to speak, or they end up, being leading a gay lifestyle as well.
Yeah, and SCSA, we have a pretty large percentage of folks that are gay.
Mm-hmm.
And well, that's a hot topic. I don't even know if I want to get into it because they even fight amongst themselves, whether it's a choice or not, or whether the abuse caused them to be gay. It's very, very complex.
Yeah. Question. Even with that, I mean, there's still, healing to be done. I mean, I don't care if you're gay, straight, whatever. Mm-hmm. I just don't want you to be tormented, anymore. I don't want you to be addicted. I want you to live a happy, joyous, and free life. Whatever path you choose, that's fine. I just want you to find that freedom.
Mm-hmm. And it all starts with getting sober, doesn't it?
It does. It does. Absolutely. It starts with that first step of getting sober and building your tribe and connecting with others. And you know very much that I'm a huge proponent of giving back as a means to help along the healing. I mean, that's worked really well for myself. Being able to give back to others. It pretty much became a calling. And each time I get to work with an individual, it helps me stay sober.
Yeah, the 12th step.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's very pleasing and meaningful work when you're doing 12 steps type stuff, and that's basically what we do at SCSA. We have peer-led support groups. We don't make people do step work, but we're practicing the 12th step. Fellowship, service to another.
That's huge. Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge proponent. I don't care what you do, but you've got to plug in somewhere. Being isolated and out on our own, whether it's, sexual trauma or addiction or whatever, we do not do well on our own. We've got to be part of a community. I can't stress that enough.
I think I know the answer, but I'll ask it anyway. Why can some people, for example, my mom was a heroin addict and she just quit cold turkey. And where other addicts, they struggle with quitting. What's the difference?
Oh man, that's a loaded question. There's so many factors that go into why we do what we do. And even as we sober up, there's so many variables and barriers and struggles that we run into. It's support is huge. Having support, when you're coming out of that, if somebody doesn't have support, I mean, the relapse rate is pretty high. Some people can, like you said, some people have life experiences, like maybe going to jail or something like that. That's all they need as far as their catalyst for change. I think other people, I think it has a lot to do with brain chemistry and environment. I mean, there's so many factors go into both our successes and our failures. What do you think? What's your answer?
What's my answer is I was looking for more towards the medical explanation. So, stuff like, is it a disease or is it a choice? The age-old argument. I personally feel it's a disease.
Yeah. I mean, I think the further and further we get in brain science, I was at a seminar recently about, and one of the doctors there, he's kind of the ones that spearheaded, I can't remember his name right now, but he kind of spearheaded the brain scans and scanning, people dealing with addiction and mental health issues. And I think the more we progress in that brain science, that's just shoring up the disease model. But addiction is a biopsychosocial spiritual disease, and that's how SAMHSA, Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration or whatever, that's their definition. Mm-hmm. So like it's so multifaceted, but the brain is a huge part of it. I agree with you there. We're coming out with more and more medications that curb cravings, and especially with mental health. There's, I have a son that deals with the severe mental health issues, and if it wasn't for the medication he takes, he would probably be locked away somewhere. So the science is improving yearly, and that's a good thing.
Yeah, I agree too. There seems to be a big sober movement going on right now. That's what's going on from your side.
Absolutely. I mean, you see a lot of the stars in Hollywood and stuff coming out, more and more people. And I think what we're learning is finally learning that the stigma is killing people. You know, even in the anonymous circles, remaining anonymous or silent is killing people. So the more of us that can stand up and speak out, and like I said earlier, it's giving everybody a voice. And we're trying to turn the tide. The sad part now is just the overdose is that we're taking on. It's just brutal right now. And, in regards to trauma and sexual trauma, what I'm seeing is the younger kids, 18 to 30, they're medicating with heroin and opiates. The older generation, like me and you, it's alcohol. That's what they're using to self-medicate. So, alcohol takes a little longer, to kill a person, but there's a lot that are dying from the fentanyl that's being put in the heroin now.
Yep.
And it's mind-boggling that we haven't been able to stop this yet.
And it's gotten exponentially worse through the years too. I mean, like when we were kids, the worst thing that could possibly happen is we got some Mexican ditch weed when we bought Acapulco Gold. But these kids are shooting dirty stuff. And, back in the old days in the 70s, it was heroin. Now you don't know what it is. Yeah.
I mean, I'll ask them, I say, what are you using? They don't even say heroin anymore. They say fentanyl.
They say fentanyl.
Straight fentanyl. They said you can't even find heroin anymore. Fentanyl is the only thing that's out on the street. And every one of them has lost 4, 5, 6 friends. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's brutal. That's the sad part about treatment is, 100% of the people that need treatment, only 10% are getting it. Yeah.
And with heroin and fentanyl, I mean, it's, you can't get the dose right because you don't know what's in it. Mm-hmm. And it's very, very, very dangerous. I mean, first-time users croak.
Yeah.
That's horrible. Well, if you got a problem like that, I know a really good place to go to. It's called Greenhouse. Saved my life. And here's a word from them.
Navigating mental health recovery can be overwhelming and at times feel like a never-ending maze of treatments and therapies. The PATH program at the Greenhouse offers a step-by-step and individualized program designed just for you. The PATH program offers a safe and inviting atmosphere for clients to share, create, support, and heal together. The program is adjusted to meet the various needs of those participating, including but not limited to coping skills, substance abuse, trauma work, basic life skills, goal setting and planning, crisis prevention, medication management, family education, and much more. PATH goes beyond the normal co-occurring disorder treatment, putting an intense focus on the treatment of chronic mental illness. While your substance use will be addressed, your time in treatment will be greatly focused on mental health education and learning new coping skills. Greenhouse Treatment Center is the perfect place to leave your past behind and find the joy that recovery can bring.
A lot of people are scared to get well. The thought of going into a treatment center like the Greenhouse is, it's when I first went, I was like, oh, okay. It was just the intake part, right? It's like, I'm going to be in this place for 30 days. Jeez. But once you get actively engaged and involved and you've been there for a couple of days, it's actually a lot of fun. Recovery can be fun, can it?
Absolutely. I mean, so many people, their perception of going to treatment, is what they see on TV. And that's not really a good perception of the process. The therapist and the other clients that are there, you're all there for the same reason. There's a huge community, a lot of commonality. You're all there with the same struggles. You're all trying to get sober. You're sharing your stories. and you have your small groups. You really build some relationships. I still talk to the guy I was in rehab with, one of my roommates, and that was 14 years ago now. So, we still talk and encourage one another. But yeah, it can be scary to take that first step. What we have noticed, Richard, is typically women will make that decision about twice as fast as men will. Men have a tendency to stay out longer and do more damage to themselves. Did you know that?
I did not know that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm assuming it's harder to spot a woman alcoholic in the home setting.
No, not nowadays. Nowadays, alcohol is so prevalent. They go get their nails done and they're getting alcohol shoved in their face. They're shopping. You go shopping, they're getting alcohol shoved in their face. The wine movement, so to speak, has really sped up alcoholism in women over the last 10 years. I've seen it. I'm on the front lines. They come in, what's going on? What you dealing with? Oh, I drink, 2 bottles of wine a night, every night. They never had a clue that they could become physically addicted to it.
Wine gets a pass. Everybody thinks it's healthy and everything, but no, that was my addiction. My addiction was wine.
Yep.
2 boxes a day, 2 big boxes a day.
Yeah.
No nutrition whatsoever. Isolating. It was pretty dark for a while.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So I don't think we're seeing a lot more women coming in now, but still, like I said, the men tend to stay out there longer and do more physical damage to themselves, whether it be accidents, having to go to jail, prison, self-harm, high blood pressure, heart disease, throat cancer. There's a whole myriad of things that come with alcoholism.
Yeah. Throat cancer, really?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That's amazing. See, I learn something every day.
Yep.
So what's the first step a victim or survivor should take to start the healing journey?
I think the first step is, in my mind, and with the people I work with, is asking for help. Finding that person or persons you can trust, or community, like SCSA, that you recognize as a problem and you ask for help. And my encouragement is for you to know you're not alone. You're not alone. These quote demons that we fight, whether it be addiction or trauma or whatever, it likes to make us feel like we're alone, and we're really not.
Yeah. My time at Greenhouse, I was pilots, attorneys, nurses, kids. Addiction doesn't discriminate at all.
No.
And it's
equal opportunity destroyer.
Yeah. And when you're with all of these people for 30 days, it gives you a new outlook on things. You'll actually meet people that you might not necessarily ever meet in your life. It's
right.
The sober community is very, very vibrant, and it's very welcoming. My experiences were all positive. AA didn't work for me. I struggled with the anonymous part too.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a couple of bad sponsors, but just going to therapy like EMDR, you can target different areas, and addiction is one of them. And that's what finally helped me. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. That first step is often the biggest step, stepping out of ourselves, having that moment of clarity where we realize, or we garner that inner strength to ask for help and reach out. I would encourage anybody that's struggling, with trauma or any kind of addiction, please reach out. You're not alone. There are people out there waiting with open arms to help you, guide you, give you information, give you encouragement, share your burdens even.
Yeah. Have a new birthday. That was powerful for me too. Had a new birthday.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, they say God doesn't shut one door without opening another. And just the people that I've met throughout my journey, it's been really, really incredible.
Yeah. Well, you're an amazing guy, Richard. I count myself very fortunate, for our paths to have crossed. I'm thoroughly excited about, what you're doing here with SCSA. And it's amazing to watch your process and how you are have taken a hold of this and are helping others. It's huge.
Well, thank you for the kind words. I appreciate that. It's a labor of love. I mean, I probably put in 60, 70 hours a week. There's not much need. And I don't want to call victims and survivors a market, but Stanford University says that there's 4 million child sex abuse victims that haven't said anything. And I believe that number to be very, very low, very low. If you consider that, 1 in 7 girls is molested and 1 in 11 boys are, given the population of the United States, that number is extremely, extremely low.
Yeah, I agree with you there. What I'm seeing, that's a very conservative estimate.
Yeah.
For sure.
And just like rape in general, it's very, very underreported, and it just kills me to know that people out there are suffering alone in silence and drinking and drugging themselves to death. It's very, very sad. But we have victories too.
We do.
Oh yeah, we have a young boy, man. He's a young man, 16 years old. He contacted us. He's from Sweden, and his parents were addicted to drugs, and they were selling him to a pedophile, a neighborhood pedophile. And the neighborhood pedophile was filming it and taking pictures and stuff, and he just couldn't take it anymore. And he reached out to us. We talked for about a couple of weeks, and got the courage up and stuff. And he went to his school counselor, and now he's in foster care in a foster home that he likes. That one pedophile that he busted turned out to be a ring of pedophiles.
Wow.
A ring of pedophiles that were trading, the pornography and stuff. And he's not drinking anymore. He was 1 bottle a day vodka at 16 years old, 1 bottle a day of vodka. And he's living his best life right now. So, those are little small victories along the way.
Absolutely. What a brave young man. Yeah.
Oh, he's incredible. Yeah. Yeah. His name is John. I can say that. I won't say his last name though, but we chat every day. It's fulfilling to watch him go off on his journey. Now, he even introduced us to another survivor. And if you can believe this or not, this kid is molested many times for years in a church. And now he's 18 years old and he's in the Ukraine. And I talk to him probably once a day before he goes out to the battlefield. So he's 18 and he can't leave. And so he's dealing with the trauma stuff and working on that while he's at war. It's just, the resilience and determination of these kids are very, very impressive. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, it's a tragedy when somebody waits until their 40s or 50s to come forward. We know what else is a tragedy. A tragedy is when you have a 72-year-old come to you for the first time. And if you think about it, he was molested just like everybody else, but he lived a complete life of hell. And in the very moment he's supposed to be enjoying his life, he's dealing with this. That's the saddest of all.
That is so sad.
Yeah. But, the church and stuff, we can deal with that. We can, do enough watchdog stuff to where they stop doing it. But at home, the abuse that happens in the home by a family member, the drunk uncle, the babysitter, that's the tough one to get to. And I would say in SCSA, the makeup is probably 70% institutions like churches and schools and stuff like that. And the rest are victims of family.
Right.
The people you thought you could trust above all.
Yeah, I mean, that was my own story. It was one of my friend's older brothers, and it went on for several months before it finally stopped with me. And that was a family we had eaten with and gone camping with and things like that. So yeah, I get that. I definitely do.
So let's take one more break and then we'll come back with some thoughts and we'll wrap it on up. Here we go. Hello, this is Richard Windmann, co-founder and president of SCSA. You are listening to the SCSA Podcast Network, one of the many services that SCSA provides. Our primary purpose is to support and advocate on the behalf of victims and survivors of childhood sex abuse. We hold weekly peer-led support meetings where we fellowship with survivors, and we also make attorney and mental health referrals for our members. All of these services we provide, including these podcasts, are completely free of charge. How do we do it? Through patrons like you. SCSA is a 501c3 nonprofit, and we survive solely on donations. If you would like to make a tax-free contribution, simply go to www.scsaorg.org and click the donate button. Again, that is www.scsaorg.org. There are plenty of ways to donate. While there, you'll learn of different ways to donate through Amazon Smile and Facebook. That doesn't cost you anything. Our victim and survivor members appreciate your patronage. Now back to the show. So, Todd, what's on the horizon for you besides your master's level studies?
After I get my master's behind me, I'll get my LPC, which will make me a licensed professional counselor. And my plan is to eventually open up a private practice. And really what I want to do, Richard, is I want to do a group practice. I want to have 4 or 5 therapists in there with me working together, because I live out in a rural county and we're growing pretty rapidly, west of Fort Worth. And I'm going to get EMDR trained, going to get ART trained, and then just try to serve as many people as I can. It's something that I live and breathe, much like you do. Helping others is a part of who I am now, and I can't ever see myself doing anything else.
Awesome. Hey, give us some good news. Had a recent victory.
Yeah, recent victory. I mean, I can get them all the time. I had a young man, actually an older man of New York, had similar story. He had been abused in the church, and he just celebrated. And actually, he was a psychologist, Richard, and he just celebrated 1 year sober and doing great. I think what a lot of people don't know is there's right now there's 25 million people in recovery.
Yeah,
25 million and growing. There are more groups starting up that do activities. Because a lot of people think when they get sober, what am I going to do now? But there's organizations. There's a organization in Texas. I guess I could give their name. It's called the Phoenix.org.
I went on a couple of their events. Really cool.
Yeah, it's sober activities. So you don't have to go meet people in the bar. So, but they do like kayaking and working out and indoor rock climbing and things like that. So
I went on a hike, 2 hikes I went.
Yeah.
It's a nice group of people.
They are.
There's just
no
boys around.
Right. But yeah, we see victories every day. Unfortunately, what you hear in the media a lot of times is the doom and gloom, but we do have victories. I have multiple clients that reach back out to me. I've got 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, so 3 years. I have clients that are now in school to get their degrees in counseling or social work. So, yeah, we have victories. We sure do. We sure do.
Oh, great. Well, thank you for taking the time on your Saturday to talk to me. I appreciate it. I certainly appreciate everything that you do, and I'm proud to call you my brother.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I appreciate all you're doing, and keep it going, man. Keep it going.
Will do. So that's the end of this episode. Again, thanks, Todd, for coming out, and we'll end it on a happy note.
So late, don't get up, baby.